YouTube, how we doing, family? It's your boy Yo, and this is another episode of Yo Hoops. We go through every NBA game every day. Today's Friday, March 14th, and we have a 10-game NBA card. I'm gonna walk you through every game, let you know which sides I like, and stick around because I have two highlighted selections for today. I do this every day for free, so please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and let me know your favorite games in the comment section below. Without further ado, let me get into today's recap. Recapping yesterday, we did cash our highlighted play of the day. We took the Milwaukee Bucks laying 7 points against the Los Angeles Lakers. I thought it was a good spot with LeBron being out of the lineup, and the Bucks did win the game 126 to 106. Luka did hoop too. He dropped 41, 11, and 3, but it still wasn't enough to even keep the Lakers competitive. We're now 11 and 6 against the spread on highlighted plays in March, but let's keep that momentum rolling and go stack another highlighted win today. Without further ado, let me get into today's games. In our first matchup of the evening, we have the Boston Celtics in Miami taking on the Miami Heat. Celtics are laying 8 points and the total is 214. Obviously, the Celtics are the more talented team, but both of these squads are 50-50 against the spread in this spot. As road favorites, the Celtics are just 13, 14, and 1 against the spread on the season, cashing below a 50% clip. As home underdogs, the Heat are 5-5 against the spread. So if we're playing the spread, this is more of an even matchup than you may think. Looking at the injury reports, the Celtics have Al Horford, Derek White, Kristaps Porzingis, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown all listed as questionable. On the Heat side, they will be without Alec Burks and Nikola Jovic. This is a good spot for the Heat, and I think they at least keep this one competitive. If a couple players on the Celtics don't end up going, then we're getting value on this +8. I'm taking a shot on this one. We're taking the Heat plus the 8 as our first highlighted selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Indiana Pacers in Philadelphia taking on the Philadelphia 76ers. Pacers are laying 13 points and the total is 232. I've been telling you guys for a while, I've stuck a fork in the Sixers season. It's over with. Still no Embiid, Maxey, or Paul George, and here they're without Lonnie Walker as well. He's been hooping for them recently. These two teams faced each other on January 18th of this year, and the Pacers won that one 115 to 102. That was with Tyrese Maxey dropping 28 points. Here, I think the Pacers absolutely run them out the gym. No need to overcomplicate this one for me. We're taking the Pacers laying the 13 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the LA Clippers in Atlanta taking on the Atlanta Hawks. Clippers are laying 4.5 points, and the total is 233. The Clippers have looked better recently. They're 4-1 over their last 5 games, and it looks like they've found some rhythm without Norman Powell on the floor. The Hawks on the other side, though, have been hooping through injury all season. They currently sit in the 7th spot in the East, and that's with half of their key players on the bench. Here, I'm looking at a total, and I think this one is set too high. The Hawks do score the 5th most points per game in the league, averaging 117.4, but the Clippers only score the 21st most points per game in the league, averaging 111.1. That gives us a little breathing room here, as it's a 228 expected total. Then when I consider the Clippers have the number 4 defense in the league, I think we cruise under this total. We're taking the Clippers and Hawks under 233 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Charlotte Hornets in San Antonio taking on the San Antonio Spurs. Spurs are laying 2.5 points, and the total is 232.5. Nothing here tells me to lay points with the Spurs. After already having Victor Wembanyama out for the season, it was announced yesterday that De'Aaron Fox will undergo season-ending finger surgery. This banged up, I have to lean towards the Hornets. This is a short line, but as road underdogs, the Hornets are now 15, 12, and 1 against the spread. You've been profitable this season betting with the Hornets every game that they're underdogs. I do think that the Spurs play hard here and try and show that, hey, we're more than just our stars, but at the end of the day, Charlotte is the team that's shown up in this situation. We're taking the Hornets plus 2.5 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers in Memphis taking on the Memphis Grizzlies. Cavs are laying 2.5 points, and the total is 244.5. Just looking at this line, I knew someone important had to be out for the Cavs. They're way more than just 2.5 point favorites over the Grizzlies. Sure enough, when I look at the injury report, Donovan Mitchell is ruled out tonight. The Cavs have been winning games without him, but they always dig themselves in huge deficits, then end up climbing out of it to win those games by a bucket. This 2.5 line is efficient. We know the Grizzlies haven't looked the same without Jaren Jackson in the lineup. Him being out has weighed more on the Grizzlies than Donovan Mitchell being out for the Cavs. This one probably comes down to the wire, like I'm saying, and don't be surprised to see the Cavs down big at some point, but in the end, I do see this as a 3 or 4 point Cavs win. We're taking the Cavs laying the 2.5 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Dallas Mavericks in Houston taking on the Houston Rockets. Rockets are laying 12 points, and the total is 220.5. I always mention that the Rockets are a team that runs hot and cold, but tonight, I'm betting on them running hot. At home is where the Rockets typically play their best ball, and you guys already know everyone's out for the Mavs. PJ Washington and Kai Jones are questionable here, but that does not move the needle for me. The Rockets have started to turn it on recently. They're currently on a 4-game win streak, and they won 3 out of those 4 games convincingly by double digits. They currently sit in the 5th spot in the West, just 1 game behind the Lakers, so really I expect them to be locked in for the rest of the regular season. We're taking the Rockets laying the 12 points as our second highlighted selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Orlando Magic in Minnesota taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves. Wolves are laying 10 points, and the total is 207.5. The Magic do come into this one on the second leg of a back-to-back, flying from New Orleans to Minnesota. We were on them last night, and they won that game 113-93. Paolo and Franz Wagner were hoping, and they combined for 61 points. This is a tough spot on no rest with travel, but I cannot lay double digits with the Wolves at home. As home favorites, Minnesota is now 9-18 against the spread on the season. They do win games at home, but they get into trouble when they're laying these extended spreads. Rudy Gobert is back in the lineup, and the Wolves are back at full strength, so I'm not necessarily in a rush to bet this one, but I would have to lean towards the Magic plus the 10 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Los Angeles Lakers in Denver taking on the Denver Nuggets. Nuggets are laying 14 points, and the total is 229.5. This is a really bad spot for the Lakers. They come into this one on the second leg of a back-to-back, flying from Milwaukee to Denver. Their injury report is tentative based on it being a back-to-back, but we know they'll be without LeBron James. I wouldn't be surprised to see Luka sit as well. He's been questionable in all their games recently, and I don't know that he's conditioned for a back-to-back. He played 36 minutes just last night against the Bucks. Really for no reason, because the Lakers were down 15 plus the entire second half. I peeped him getting buckets in the fourth quarter down 25. When my goats do that, they call it stat padding, but we won't get into that. Here in the Mile High City, I expect the Nuggets to throttle them. The Lakers are too banged up and lacking in size. They're going to get dominated on the glass, similar to what we saw last night in that Bucks game. We're taking the Nuggets laying the 14 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Toronto Raptors in Utah taking on the Utah Jazz. Jazz are laying 2.5 points, and the total is 235. This is another tough one for me. The Jazz are getting healthier, and I do think they're the more talented squad coming into this one, but this game means a lot more to the Raptors. The Jazz are 1 game ahead of the Wizards for the worst record in the entire NBA. They should really be losing games and focused on tanking for next season. The Raptors on the other side are currently in the 11th spot in the West, 5 games out from a play-in spot. It's unlikely that they get there, but the only way they would be to win all of their winnable games like this one. Looking at the injury reports, the Jazz will be without John Collins, then Colin Sexton is questionable. On the Raptors side, they're without Jonathan Mogbo, Jakob Poeltl, Jacoby Walter, and Grady Dick. Then Scotty Barnes and Baji are questionable. Like I said, this game does mean more to the Raptors. They basically need to win all of their winnable games moving forward, but I still have to lean towards the Jazz. With Walker Kessler and Lauri Markkanen going tonight, I don't think the Raptors' current squad has enough size or depth to deal with them. We're taking the Jazz on the money line. I can find the money line odds for minus 125, minus 130, so I don't necessarily see a point in laying the 2.5 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our last and final matchup of the evening, we have the Sacramento Kings in Phoenix taking on the Phoenix Suns. Suns are laying 3 points, and the total is 232.5. The Kings come into this one on the second leg of a back-to-back, flying from Golden State to Phoenix. While this is a terrible spot for the Kings, we haven't been able to trust the Suns at home all season. As home favorites, the Suns are 6-15-1 against the spread on the season. This game is important to both teams in terms of standings. The Suns are in the 11th spot in the West, just 3 games behind the Kings, who are in the 9th spot. At the end of the day, I have to roll with the Suns here. Sabonis is still out, and player for player with the guys on the court in this one, the Suns have the more talented roster. The Kings played late last night. I did watch that game, so they'll have very little rest flying to Phoenix. The Suns aren't going to lose every game at home. I'm taking a shot with them here. We're taking the Suns laying the 3 as our last and final selection of the evening. And that's going to conclude today's video. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Hey, 11-6 on our highlighted plays in March, and we also got an 8-game sweep under our belt this month. Let's keep the momentum rolling, though, and continue to stack those highlighted wins. I greatly appreciate you guys tuning in. I do this every day for free, so please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It's your boy, Yo! And until the next one, I'm going to catch y'all. Peace.